Hey everybody, Mike with Games Play Badly. Do you like Cyberpunk? Do you like horror? Well, let's put those two things together because that's what we're talking about today. That interview starts now. Hey, Chris, oh God, I fucked that up already.
Let's go. Get it out, man. Get it out of the system.
Hey, oh no, I got the giggles. Oh, this is like the worst. This is the worst. I did one of these interviews. This is years ago, and I could not stop laughing the entire time. It was the absolute worst.
See, here's the rule now, though. Remember, if you do it a third time, you've got to do a blooper reel. Then that's just the
Absolutely.
way. That's the way it is, man.
Yeah, the obligatory blooper. I haven't done one of those in a while. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have plenty of them. All right, let's try this one more time.
Got it.
Uh, maybe I'll make it easy on myself. Yeah, make it easy. Okay. Hey guys, how are you?
Hi, Mike. Doing great. How are you today?
Thanks for having us, Mike.
Oh man, I opted not to use your first names because I couldn't get through them, so I just opted to just group you guys in and just say guys. So
It's good. I know that Chris and Josh are difficult names to really enunciate cleanly. So
for me, it would come out like Crosh or something. It was just in my mind. That's how it works. I'm dyslexic, so in a lot of ways, my mind is very different. But anyway, we're here to talk about a project that is called the Hardlight Dynamic, and the game company is Spooky Bell Games. Is that correct?
you got it, man.
Perfect. Well, I got through something finally. So this is an interesting game. I'm going to read what your kind of tagline for the game is, and it says a descent into the acid horror playground of a doomed AI as it slowly breaks reality down around itself.
That's
So
right.
that is a mouthful and conceptually a mindful. Why don't you go ahead and explain that?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm gonna steal Josh's line here. Because what we really do start off with is kind of a heist gone wrong, kind of
Mhm.
setup. And then once you get into that heist to steal, kill, destroy, set free this AI at the bottom of the Hardlight Dynamic building, things start going very wrong. So there is in the book a multi-story building. As you're going down, you're exploring different sections, trying to get to different places. And like we said, the reality kind of melting, break apart starts happening more and more the closer to this AI that you get.
Is this something that is meant to be a long-term episodic campaign type situation, or is this meant to sit down at a table and play it in one shot?
So this was meant to be played kind of like as a one shot. When I
Mhm.
write these, I like to think of them as like what I do at like cons as I play them at conventions with other people, and so
Mhm.
it's really easy to keep those contained as like one shots. So like 4 to 6 hours is I think the ideal play time, and rather than put stuff like around it that would make it longer, my goal with this was to make it like there was more content to explore so you could come back and run it again. So Chris and I went back and forth developing these tables that have a lot of content that you'll never fully explore the first time. You'll have to play it a couple of times to really
Nice.
experience everything.
Yeah, you give it that replayability.
Mhm.
Wonderful. So this game is designed for the cyborg battle system. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'll hop in. So Cyborg is the cyberpunk version of the morkborg role-playing game. So if you're not familiar with morkborg, it is the super dark doom metal fantasy setting put up by Free League Games and Stockholm Cartel. And so Cyborg is the cyberpunk version of that, which also pulls in, kind of the weirdness and stuff of morkborg, but places it really in that cyberpunk world.
How does the AI affect you when you're going into this building? How does that get triggered? What does that look like?
So when we were writing it, we didn't want it to be like something where you walk in and it's right in your face that there's like this AI. We wanted it to be something where it's, slowly the veil is pulled back, a little bit more of a slow burn as you explore and start to kind of piece together what's happening. So there's small encounters that hint at what's further down there when you first go through, but there's a playground, as what we call it, the VR playground, and that's where you really first meet, this AI potentially. It's administrating this kind of experiment almost, and you kind of have to interact with it to get across from one part to the other, and that's your first real introduction to the AI. And at first you're like, oh, maybe it's maybe this is it, maybe this isn't it, but slowly over time it starts to become clear what exactly is happening.
That sounds, and that kind of reminds. I'm not sure if either one of you have seen Resident Evil.
Yeah,
but the daughter in that, is she really helping or is she really hindering? As an AI counterpart. So
yeah, exactly. That's
yeah. Well, and I think what's interesting is it gives avenue. I think going back to like the original idea, what I think is interesting about it is that the AI. A lot of people believe that while AI is the advent of like, oh my goodness, there's a lot of bad disruption that can come from it. There's a lot of good disruption that can come from it. I think it's interesting to not make the AI this like character that you've predetermined. I think it's good to have it where it's the GM can kind of use it as a tool to tell stories around that.
Yeah, I could see that being very interesting. Chris, can you walk us through like a scenario just to see how this would play out?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the book, you're going to have a few different story hooks to use if you don't have your own. That way you can run it as a one-off or add it into your campaign. But the basic idea is that you're going to be given a reason to go down and to interact with this AI. Maybe it's to steal it, maybe it's to set it free, maybe it's to destroy it because people think it's, too powerful. So once you land inside of this Hardlight Dynamics building, you're going to have a couple of different things. You're going to have to turn on some relays and stuff like that. And then you're going to explore the building. So the further down you go, level by level, the more you get introduced to the fact that things aren't really what they seem. So it'll be small things at first, little things that you see, maybe things glitch and repeat. And then as you get further down, you'll obviously be faced with the fact that like things are definitely not normal.
You're basically in an AI generated space.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It could be all simulation. It could just be that it's mucking with reality around you and, making things work. Bend things. Well, because one of the things that's involved also is Hardlight Dynamics has developed these like perfect fractals. And so they've kind of used them as like art pieces, but really what's happening is as people interact with them and look at them, they start to lose a sense of reality and their sense of self and their perception of time. And so as the AI is interacting with these perfect fractals also, then it's multiplying that effect, to the whole area around itself.
Yeah, that's sinister.
Maybe.
The form factor for this is actually a zine, right? So it's like 26 pages ish, more.
Yeah, we're sitting at right at 28. 32, I told Josh, is the maximum. Okay.
We have a hard cap.
32. Yeah.
That's awesome. So it's a kind of it's a unique system. It's only possibly 32 pages long, so you don't have to do a deep dive into this, and you're off to the races playing, and it sounds like a lot of fun. So Chris, you're not unaccustomed to combat and gaming systems because you developed one on your own called the D6 Danger system, correct?
Yeah, D6 Danger was kind of an experiment for me. I had been working on a bunch of different systems and I wanted to do something that was super minimal. You could just put it on the table, everyone could read through it and learn it right then. And then you could play through any kind of action-packed scenario basically with it. And it was also a chance for me as an independent creator to take something from concept to writing to art layout, put it on itch and have it go out into the world as a product.
Yeah. So, I mean, this isn't your first rodeo.
No, yeah. I mean, I have this. Beyond Deep is a morkborg adventure that ended up being like 100-page book with a, setting in a town and a bunch of stuff that we're actually just delivering right now. and that's with another part of Spooky Build Games, Les Ascalese. And then Josh has a bunch of stuff under his belt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done a lot of stuff. There's another local group to San Antonio, Storywood Games, I've worked a lot with. So for morkborg, we did the Holy Artifacts of the Sacred Tragedy, which was exploring, right, in the lore of morkborg, there's a bunch of these, basilisks that are discarded, and they're like kind of like demigods. And so we were exploring like what happens with their remains and what people did with them, and kind of built a cult around it that you could put into your little morkborg campaign. But it was a series of trifolds that you could play as one shots. Again, right, designed with the idea that you could play them at conventions, or if you wanted to, you could play all three of them together and tell a linking story that spread across all three different adventures.
From the standpoint of the Hardlight Dynamic, what did you find challenging about this project, or did you find anything challenging, or what was your favorite part of designing it?
So I think something that stood out to us as a problem that we talked through is it's a building, so it's pretty linear, which is not very OSR, which is kind of like the vein of this game. So it's trying to figure out how to make that something like let's take this linear experience and make it not necessarily non-linear, but branching pathways and different ways you can explore in different avenues. And then the other thing I think that we had a little bit of an issue with at first was just trying to figure out exactly how to get this psychedelic horror vibe across, but still have it something that people could pick up and communicate to their players, having not talked to us. Because I can explain to someone, this is what psychedelic horror is, but having that be in the language you're using and the book that you're writing was a challenge at first. Saying I've never written horror like that before, so it was definitely something to work with and figure out.
So when you think about this game, let's talk pop sci-fi movie genre. What would you say would be a movie that would be similar to this game as far as that aesthetic?
That aesthetic, there's a couple different touchstones we talk about. Annihilation is one of the big ones that we come to a lot. Suspiria has a lot of that vibe as well. A video game that I think is popular right now, so I bring it up, Dead Space, I think has like a lot of that atmospheric horror going on in there, where you're nervous about what's going on, but you want to explore and figure it all out. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is. We'd have a folder when we were first developing the idea, where we were just manically, dumping screen captures and color palettes and videos and stuff into from all these different resources. So it's been a fun project, to work on, because we both like psychedelic horror, like Josh was talking about, and we both like cyberpunk. So mashing together like the things that he referenced, and like Mandy and Eraserhead and Altered Carbon and all these different things, and kind of putting them into a blender and then getting a cohesive idea and feel out of them has been pretty interesting.
That is, and it's very interesting. I just from the TTRPG space, Cyberpunk is really making a huge comeback. I mean, there are a lot of people in kind of that genre. Now, Cyberpunk was something I played back in the late 80s, early 90s. And it just kind of fell by the wayside. It was like, oh, this is interesting, but we didn't really move forward with it. Now there seems to be a real big movement toward that aesthetic, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool. It's kind of been, on the underground and on the low for a little bit, and seeing it come back into the light, is good. And I mean, we joke around often, that we are living in the lamest version of, a cyberpunk dystopia right now.
Right.
So if I could have some cool gear and a little more neon lights, that would be appreciated, please.
Yeah. Right. A couple implants wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think with the advent of what you're saying is these AI chatbots, I did a video about creating a TTRPG adventure with ChatGPT. And so basically putting everything in and trying to like screw it up by using acronyms, and it figured it all out and actually wrote a fully functional adventure, as well as created some NPCs and stuff like that for me, which is very interesting. But I think when you think about where we're at now, we're closer to that than I think any of us would care to admit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so part of this idea originally came from, right, like the idea of like Mid-Journey, right? If you're familiar with the AI art, Mid-Journey is a system or an AI that you can give it prompts and it will generate art for you. And the original idea was, right, like what if you had people, right, like because this is, it learns by looking at what people are doing and other art styles. And so, like what if you like took that and extrapolated it to this weird extreme and it kind of explored what that would look like? So as you have all these people plugged into this AI that's able to generate art and constructs and all these other things. And we've moved away from some of those ideas. A lot of those are, still in the game, but it did come originally from, that idea of the AI takeover, which I thought was really interesting.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because then, like in science fiction, there is a long history of what if AI bad, kind of stories over time. Um, and as reality often proves, it's usually less interesting than, how really cool movies and, stories kind of make it. Because now with, AI, big art or natural language models, like ChatGPT and the open AI stuff, now the issues that you're having are more like, what are the ethics? What are the long-term repercussions,
Right.
of all this stuff? And now if we're adding it into searches, when do things start becoming recursive? When do sources start getting muddled? So it's much less exciting, than an evil AI, bending reality around you and poking holes in existence and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're dealing with now is far blander from the standpoint of that. It's very Star Trek from the standpoint of you're dealing with that prime directive moral code,
Yeah,
lifting ourselves above it all and making sure that we're not, rather than yes, it's far less black and white, it's more gray right now.
absolutely.
So you guys are kickstarting right now. If this is after the Kickstarter, I'm sure you'll be able to find this thing wherever you find your games, drive through or itch or whatever. So and we're because you guys are already funded, right?
Yeah, we were funded. We're sitting at time of recording just over 3,000 right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I mean, if people want to know more, I will have links down below to the Kickstarter. So you can go there, plus any additional information about Chris or Josh's creations will be there as well. And if you need anything or have any questions, I'm sure you can reach out to them on Twitter, which I will provide those links for you as well. And as always, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on and talking to me. I really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to see what happens with everything. Is the AI good or bad? I might make it good. I'm just thinking.
I think you should
But
play with it.
yeah, exactly. It's like you go through this, you fight through all this stuff, and at the end, it's like, oh no, you're my buddy. It's like just like the perfect adventure, right? So
Did you have
rainbows
a
fly
fun
off
time playing my
everywhere.
game? Yeah.
Absolutely. So thanks again for coming on, and I can't wait to see how all this turns out. But have a great afternoon and good luck.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate having us
Thanks
on.
for having
Thanks.
us.